Welcome, everyone. I am Judith Royer, one of the Sisters of St. Joseph, or CSJs for short, at LMU with the CSJ Center for Reconciliation and Justice. On behalf of the Sisters of St. Joseph and the CSJ Center, I want to welcome all of you who are with us today to celebrate our 4 honorees. The Hidden Heroes program is designated to honor members of the LMU Law School, LMU and law school faculty, staff, student community, alums, and/or community partners who are committed to social justice and service and action. These are people who have gone generally unrecognized or under the radar, as we call it. So this is a good time not only to recognize their contributions, but also to learn more about them and their work. I also want to take this opportunity to thank our Hidden Heroes Selection Committee and the university members who nominated this year's honorees. I'll also note that the committee makes no attempt to select people in order to meet some special agenda or represent a particular area of service. However, sometimes that happens accidentally. And this year, we realized all of our honorees represent some area of education. So social justice aspects of education will come front and center for us today in their stories. So enjoy and hopefully be inspired. I will now introduce Doris Baisley, the presentation editor for today's program, to talk about the unique nature of this recognition program and also to note a special dedication for today's program. Dory?
Hey, thanks, Judith. Judith and I come from the theater department. So the way we celebrate our awardees is we dramatize them. We match up our awardees in conversation with playwrights who will then turn their words into monologues that are read and recorded by the actors you'll see today. As the story moves through the storyteller, through the writer, to the actor, back to the audience, and to the storyteller in the audience, we find that the story takes on a bigger life. It moves from an individual story to a bigger story. And this year, it was really, we were actually surprised to find our 4 stories, when we heard them together, represent this field of education in 4 very different ways and by 4 very dedicated people. And we also feel that education now is a very precious thing that is in a lot of danger in certain ways. Anyway, the storytelling show we have today takes about 55 minutes. When it's over, we're going to invite everybody to come back on screen live with the storytellers, actors, and the audience. We hope will join us. Today we dedicate our program to our friend and hero, Sister Joanna Carroll, who died on Friday. Sister Jo did invocations for our live theater presentations at LMU, and they were always right on point, guiding us right in the direction we wanted to go with our show that day. So for today, I would like to use a few of Joanna's words to start our presentation. And this is from her invocation. May what is mute in us be set free. Okay, Hidden Heroes 2025.
Education is the most powerful weapon you can use to change the world. Nelson Mandela.
Education is not the filling of a pail, but the lighting of a fire. William Butler Yeats.
By intention and philosophy, we invite persons diverse in talents, interests, and cultural backgrounds to enrich our educational community and advance our mission.
The encouragement of learning.
The education of the whole person.
The service of faith and the promotion of justice.
The beautiful thing about learning is that no one can take it away from you. B.B. King.
And if they try,
we are all here to fight back. We must do everything in our power to protect our educators, our students, and our families. Senator Mazie Hirono.
Well, how did you prepare for this? You knocked my socks off. Oh, your dad. Hey, but you put in the effort. I mean, you really hit that interview out of the park. I commend him. So I teach coding programming. And of course, the students who gets A's are always easy to work with. It's easy to grade. But then I know I wasn't the best student either. I wouldn't want to be forgotten and just, I just see the struggle. And he's the type that will ask plenty of questions in class. I'm just asking how I could support him. And so this is, all throughout the semester, just constant questions. And then he's messaging me throughout after class, trying to get help. I mean, I'm glad he wants to get help, but at the same time, it's more work. For my final exams, I always do, well, actually, all my exams, I do mock interviews. Mock interview for a job for the skills that I'm covering in class. So let's say it's a data analyst job. I cover these skills. And you're coming in, you come to my office, we have a one-on-one interview, right? So he comes, and I already know he's nervous. He shakes my hand, and he's got the wettest hands possible. I mean, it's warm, wet hand. Ugh. Anyway, so, I mean, boy, I'm glad he showed up. I just know he just has this heavy, anxious energy. And what I love about these interviews is this is your opportunity to really show me, and in a live setting, what you know or what you want to know. Because my main metric for success at LMU is to get students jobs. And he nailed it. It was great. It just shows his understanding of it and his confidence and how he spoke about it. I was pleasantly surprised. I mean, yeah, he has potential. Knock my socks off. I'm always experimenting and trying new things, right? What really brought me to LA, I mean, I thought I was going to be a professional skateboarder. I think about it all the time. You fall more than you land the trick. Yeah, there are times where I've tried tricks 2-3 hours nonstop just to land it once. And I think that's one of the best meta learnings from skateboarding. Always experimenting and trying new things. Everything just starts as an experiment. And some experiments don't do well, but some do exceedingly well. Even like the interviewing style. Just to do one-on-ones, and that's how it started. Some of my students, they've never been in an interview before, and they've never had a technical interview before. And normally, you go in for an interview, and you're like, I don't know how I did. If I didn't get the job, I guess I didn't do well. But I don't know why exactly. And that's the difference. See, I give them feedback. I interview them, and I give them the feedback right after. I wrote this paper that was published, researching what was being asked of people in the industry versus what was being taught in the classroom. And one of the things I noted was that some soft skills were missing. So communication, right? And just a lot of self-awareness and being aware of the other person. That can go a long way. It's funny, whenever I have a guest speaker in class, they'll come from tech and they have strong technical hard skills, but the takeaway is always the soft skills. Yeah, It's just how you relate to another, how you see yourself and how you present yourself to the world. And that's what really matters. Not necessarily just to get the job and be promoted, but to have a better work experience. And it's always going back to how can I better prepare my students? And I'm fully open with my students. I'm like, hey, this is the first time I'm teaching this, but I think it's important. You need to know this. I mean, this is what's modern and what's being taught, and it's in demand, right? What you need to be in those high stakes live environments. Yeah, I went to LMU. Like I said, I wasn't always the best student. Everything is luck, right? And it was. I mean, I was still a senior. Back then it was like okay, .com, e-commerce, just having a website, the internet craze. And so I just went to the career services at LMU, found a job through their search engine, and found this marketing company. It was a small startup in Hollywood. It was on Hollywood and Highland. And I went in for the interview, and I loved the people. It was in this cool, hip place. It's loft style. Everybody was young, and I just loved the energy. And I started working full time, senior year, and I just fell in love with it. That was really the most optimistic time. I mean, this was year, what, 20? Oh, no, it was year 2000, which was the height of the dot-com days. And that was kind of similar to how now everything, is about AI. It's always these new technologies. Microsoft. I had a meeting with them yesterday where we're putting on this workshop for the College of Business for AI. How do we equip our faculty, staff, and students on how to use AI, embrace it, right? And the ethics of it too, wrangling with it, but also just how to get value from it, but in the right way. It's still this kind of Wild West, trying to figure it out. But I'm on a mission to fully embrace it. I mean, it's here. It's here. And it's just the beginning. Change is always scary. When I see my daughter Ollie, which by the way is the name of one of the main skateboarding tricks, yeah, I mean, when I see my daughter on the jungle gym or on the playground, I can just feel my anxiety. You say, okay, that's high enough. What's your plan out of this? But I'm always optimistic. I mean, I'm a tech optimist, and I find that things will get better in the long run. We just can't see it now. I mean, similar to the agricultural revolution. Okay, these farmers will be replaced, but there are other jobs created. I mean, hopefully there's more abundance as a result of these technology changes. Yeah, I mean, I definitely have concerns and fears. I mean, they're definitely there. But I think it's my duty to make people make better choices or just be aware of what's happening and not be too scared, that they don't embrace it. I teach data ethics and privacy class. I teach a workshop on it. And it's just a pause. Okay? I mean, I give them a checklist. If something doesn't feel right, pause. Just keep going through the checklist to make sure that what you're doing isn't harming others. Because it's easy to forget. I mean, you get busy, you get caught up, and you don't realize what you're doing. Or just, I don't want to ruffle the feathers. Because it's easy to forget. You get busy, you get caught up and don't realize what you're doing. Or just, I don't want to ruffle any feathers or jeopardize my job. And then you just start getting used to it. So I talk about how we build those models. Because I used to work in marketing. And I mean, truth be told, my job was to get more people to click on those ads to buy stuff. In the end, it didn't sit well with me. I said, what am I doing this for? Yeah, and just knowing what went into that, all these tech companies, when you look at it, they're really just marketing companies. So we're Catholic, and my mom is a devout Catholic, and my dad too. They go to mass every day. But my dad was also the type, I mean, he was the one, let's make as much money as I can. Let's have the nicest cars for others to see. And then I was absorbed. in some of that. I was in the industry for about 18 years, you know. In 2012, I had a major liquidity event where I was able to sell half of my company. I mean, I felt like I had another company before. We sold it. I was young, but it wasn't a situation where I could, retire already. But I met my wife at LMU. She went there too. I mean, it was enough to like, okay, let's pay for the wedding. We're comfortable now. And with those same people, we started another company, and the goal there was to sell it. And I was just so fixated on just selling it. I was a workaholic. And there's so many times where, oh, sorry, we got to cut our vacation short. We got to cut dinner short, or I can't do this. And just working to death, all with a goal of, I want to sell this company to have that freedom. But of course, you sell it, and it's like you get to that point, and it's so cliche. Oh, this is it? That's it? And you hit that number, and then the number gets bigger. I love the tech work, but then I just didn't feel like it sat right with me with what we were doing. My wife was always involved in ministry, helping at our church volunteer services, and it was so fitting that in 2012, she invited me to go on this retreat because there I had this first realization. I mean, this is what it feels like to truly be seen, to truly be, to know, not just in my head, but in my heart, like what it feels like to be loved by God. It's not because I'm doing well at work. I mean, but that pretty much changed my life. It just changed everything. And that was 13 years ago. Yeah, this Ignatian spirituality, this Jesuit Ignatian spirituality is very much integrated into our life. We have this sensitivity to Ignatian discernment, how we make choices, what brings us closer to God, what increases faith, hope, and love. Yeah, I really owe it to her. That's how I align my values and principles, and very much the reason why I'm back at LMU. And that was more in gratitude for all that I've received, and then just to give back in the sense of just seeing the other, just regardless of who they are. The way I look at it is we're all equal. And so, okay, who do I serve? Right? It's whoever's right in front of me. It can be a student, and there's quite a spectrum of them here, their background, their demographic. And so, if this is who God places in front of me, well, that's the person I'm going to serve and pay attention to. So that's what motivates me or energizes me to give in that way. Oh, maybe it's social justice in a sense. I mean, how can I just help whoever they are be seen? And then maybe the good will flow from them. I mean, hopefully, it produces more good. If I could be directly tied to it, whether I taught you something or I gave you an experience, and that was the change, or maybe that's what made the difference. We're all unique, and we're all children of God.
I can think back to a handful of teachers and counselors who were very supportive and encouraging me along the way. The first teacher who supported me is when I was in elementary school. I remember, I think it was first grade, my favorite book was Nina Nina Ballerina. And it's so funny because our first grade teacher had a small library. And whenever we would get done with work, you would be able to have quiet reading time. It was called the library corner. She had some beanbag chairs, and you could really make yourself comfortable. So it was a completely different study, right? From sitting in those wooden chairs with your desk. It's your own time. So I'd really look forward to that. I was just like, oh my gosh, I love reading. And I remember looking forward to the scholastic book fairs in elementary school and just, being so excited to share with my parents. And they were always like, okay, all right. What books do you want? Like, get as many as you want. Another set of books that I also really enjoyed were the books about Clifford the Big Red Dog. We had a dog back then. His name was Buddy, and he was a rescue. And he lived with us for 20 years. We still had him when I graduated from UC Irvine. And when my brother graduated from CSUN. We were first generation college students. I was the first in my family. And then my brother. As far back as third grade, I had a teacher, Mrs. Smith, who nominated me to be part of an academic boot camp during the summers. When she told me and my parents, she was like, I don't know if a student would actually want to go and take the summer and go to school when you don't have to, but I absolutely loved the idea. And I did that academic boot camp all the way through like my first year of high school. I think that just highlights the opportunities that help us along the way. The teachers who tap us and say, hey, I see this in you, and I think you'd be a great fit. Let's try it. See what happens. I'm so thankful for them. They helped me get to where I am now.
Delmy.
Oh, hi.
Oh, thanks for coming. Delmy is program associate at the Center for Religion and Spirituality within Mission and Ministry here at LMU.
And this is Bob Hurteau. He's the director of the Center for Religion and Spirituality.
Delmy has been very committed to helping students succeed in education, not just here at the center, but in all of LMU. And how do I say this? When you were in school, you were teaching education counseling?
Oh, no, just counseling.
But you were counseling students?
Yeah.
And then we had an opening in 2021 to be part of our BA equivalency program.
When I had the opportunity to interview with this team, I was like, oh my gosh. I just prayed. I was praying that I would get it. It would also mean being at LMU, which I absolutely love.
It was actually a part-time job when she applied. And of course, the concern was it's a part-time job. It's entry level.
But I was like, it doesn't matter. I'm okay with it. I just love the idea of this program and what you're doing to support these students that are involved in ministry and beginning their educational journeys. Yeah, I can think back to a handful of teachers and counselors who were very supportive and encouraged me along the way because I knew I wanted to go to college, but I didn't necessarily have all the information as to what I needed to do to get there.
Well, what I've seen Delmy do with great flourish and dedication is understanding where each of the students are and helping them to find a way to keep moving and helping them to keep an attitude that it is possible.
Having to navigate that for a large part on my own with the guidance of a few folks here and there, I just wanted to make sure that these students don't feel alone. I work with two programs that I'm very passionate about. The first program is Mantener el Camino, which is translated roughly to mean stay the course or stay on track. The second program is the BA Equivalency Pathway Program. Now, these two programs go hand in hand for those who are involved in ministry in their parishes, and this can look different for each of our students and their interests.
And we're talking about students that, for the most part, are older, right?
For the most part, we've had a few under 40, maybe
Yeah.
2 or 3.
Okay, but mainly over 40, often over 50, over 60. And they've come because they've been successful in ministry, especially in Spanish-speaking settings. They've been successful. They've been, in some cases, promoted at their work.
Yeah, but they can only go so far because they don't have the educational background, any real academic degrees or credentials. And this program is aimed at helping them to get those credentials, to get an academic degree.
And Delmy is a great interpreter of the complicated nature of a university and making it understandable to people who are just getting started. And I would say she does it with a lot of cariño, with affection, a lot of appreciation for the sacrifice that the students make to get on a journey that seems overwhelming at points. Each of them is working full time.
Some of them more than full time.
They have family responsibilities, and on top of that, they have ministry or service responsibilities in their communities. But they want to pursue this. And again, we've been very blessed to have someone who is really just there to help them achieve their goal, which is higher education.
And a nice highlight is that we've heard from students how much these programs mean to them. A lot of students were sharing that during COVID, knowing that I had this class, that I would see this group of students, really helped me get through a time where I couldn't go out, where I couldn't see people, where I was experiencing loss. Like, this gave me hope.
Well, and the whole idea of troubleshooting that Delmy and I are always jabbering on and on about is what else is coming up, and what are the students facing? It's hard for us to see the challenges that the students face themselves. How can we make sure that they feel supported so that they can continue to stay on track? And we know life happens.
And sometimes they need to take a leave of absence.
Delmy takes all these challenges and she's very capable with every single one of them. But the greatest challenge is, of course, external funding. And we're actually at a point right now where it's on pause. We're not taking any new students this year. We're seeking funding for future years, and so we're hoping to get that.
Right, yeah. Well, we have another challenge. Bob is retiring at the end of June.
Yep.
It's sweet. I'm so happy for him, okay? But I'm also like, Bob, what are we gonna do without you? My goodness.
Well,
Yeah, and your leadership. Like, my goodness.
Well, you're an important part of it. And that's the reason I say there's only one Delmy. But now I say we need more Delmy. What I mean is this. You've made the entry point to LMU one that is cultural and responsive to these students. And we could use you in every department in the university.
Okay. No, thank you, Bob, really. But this is honestly a team effort. And I'm just blessed to be a part of it.
I read the obits every day. And my friends say, well, that's kind of morbid, but I do like it, even though everybody laughs at me. I'm always the person leaning over going, oh, I'm so sorry you lost your cousin. And they're like, how do you know that? Well, I'm reading the obits before I leave for work. I started this practice a long time ago, probably ever since I was in my 20s practicing law. I find people's stories interesting, how they make a difference. Occasionally, people will write their own, and they're very angry, which I just crack up at. If you're reading this, it's not good. And I decided to write my own because no one likes me. And you're like, oh my God, that's horrible. It's actually kind of funny. I do read an awful lot. I get up every morning at 5:30. I read 3 publications before I head out for work. Did I grow up in LA? No, I went to 7 schools by 5th grade, East Coast, West Coast. My grandparents were from Ireland. They were immigrants. So, that was a real benefit to me because I got their wisdom as a child, even though they were older. They were sharing life lessons and hardships. Felt like that was the beginning of my education as a kid. Well, they were from Northern Ireland. They were Catholic. So they had gone through the Troubles. They were very, their attitude was, this made a difference to me, that people should be able to practice the religion that they want to practice. And they didn't have the benefit of the opportunity for education. And education is something that can never be taken. Material things can be taken. Education should really be your guide. They were very adamant about that. The next thing that happened significantly is my dad struggled with work. So that's why I was always at different schools, private, Catholic, of course, and public. And at the time, I was always the new kid. I had to figure out the dynamics of a situation. There's always beliefs. There's always kind people. And always different things are valued in different communities. So as much as I didn't like it, that was a big part of my education and kind of, made me who I am in a lot of ways. Once we finally got settled, when I was 10, we were consistently in California. So I went to school at St. Monica's, then on to LMU. And those were really good experiences. The one thing that made a big difference to me is the teachers and the nuns, the religious nuns. They always, encouraged me. I'd say that as a person, certainly as a young woman, that we could do anything. That wasn't always the case in our society during those years. They took a real interest in making sure that I knew whatever I wanted to do, whether it was being a lawyer, being a teacher, going into politics, that I could do whatever I wanted. They took a real active interest. It made a huge difference. I mean, even my choice of LMU was, look, I didn't know where I wanted to go. It was June. I was talking to different people. The nuns, they're saying, I think life is about a fit. This is a good fit for you because you're a person that likes to give back. You're a person that wants to be in a community that's engaging, that's nurturing. So we think this is a good fit for you. My parents gave me I would say the tools to make good decisions, but they never got in the weeds. It was entirely my decision. So the role models I had outside were wonderful without telling me what to do. I want to be clear. It's like pros and cons, true mentors. Ugh, I loved LMU. My problem was I liked everything about it. I did Griffin Circle. I played college basketball. I worked full-time to put myself through school. I worked on campus at LMU in the Counseling Center for Work Study. I loved that. I also had a job that was during LMU. I was processing Pell Grants for a company that had the government contract. I think, some of my jobs were very bad. So, my job that, you would maybe think it was be a little bit degrading, but I learned from it. I actually scrubbed bathrooms and cleaned tar off people's feet at the beach club. And, I told myself, if I ever was in a position to join a club like that, I never would. So I was super busy at LMU. I liked a lot of different things, but when it came to it, I had this one class in psychology and the law, and we had to brief cases. And the professor afterwards said, you just have a mind like a problem solver. And I think it could really make a difference if you went to law school. So that's what happened. And by the way, I have friends from LMU for the rest of my life because I think our values are similar. Giving back, making the world a better place. I think it's really great. We value reading, being engaged in the moment, not just sitting back. I have very supportive friends and colleagues at the law school where I work now because I consider them family. I mean, anytime someone is sick there, you wouldn't believe it. There's a core group that just goes out and helps people. I went to Loyola Law School. I had great experiences there, but I had student loans. So I interviewed through on-campus interviewing and had some big firm offers. I took the ones that I thought were the smartest, kindest people. It's turned out to be great. Going to a firm called Gibbs Giddon. They were amazing mentors. I did that for 11 years. I also taught at CSUN in the business school one night a week just because I loved it. And then state budget cuts came in and wiped out all the adjuncts. I realized, wow, I miss this. So it coincided with a year later, Jan Costello, a mentor at the law school, called. I started at LMU School of Law teaching ethical lawyering and then became the clinical dean in 2010. I like challenges and I like problem solving. I'm always trying to come up with different programs. I created something called private placement when I was an associate dean, where students could go to law firms. So it wasn't just clinics, because I realized some students don't know lawyers. The clinics are really good, but they want to be in a law firm. Well, how do you introduce them to that law firm? We have alums. That's our greatest asset. I think people are an asset. So we said, would you take students for academic credit? And the law firm said, sure. So that was a program. Another program was a career services program I was involved with, which was for students that aren't at the top of their class. Can we get law firms to hire them, to give them practical experience for a year? Maybe a little less income, but now they have a resume. I like the challenge of trying to find creative solutions. I actively participated in this program, and Priya Sridharan, who is a genius, took it and ran with it. I missed that when I first came over to law school from practice, because I think good lawyers are creative people. Once you get emotional, you're not creative. You're not a good lawyer because the client is emotional. So it's very, very important to think, this is what you want. How can I get there? I kind of missed that initially. The positive of being an administrator is I had the leeway to create things. That part of the job I loved. Policing people, not so much. One reason I read 3 publications is, although I played basketball at LMU, I like basketball, corporate clients speak that language. They talk about sports. What happened? Yeah, I have to know what's going on. I have to be able to talk back. So, yeah, it's funny. I would be reading the arts section, but that's not so relevant for client meetings. I've always loved the arts. I would attribute that to life in New York. I was quite little, and my mom and grandmother would take me to the city, even though they really didn't have a lot of money or anything, but it was important to them. In LA, the Pantages is a beautiful theater. The Pantages is cool because kids go to that theater. And you get to see the diversity. It's like a sampling of LA. Yeah, that's the other thing I really like about it. I remember seeing this play of August Wilson's Downtown. I wasn't thrilled to go, but I probably got more out of that play than what I was excited about seeing, because this man painted this fence and what came from that and what that meant to him. And I thought, oh, this is such a powerful play. I don't think I would have just randomly gotten tickets to that, because the description was, this guy doesn't get paid for painting a fence. You know, they probably could have done a better job with that description. But it was so powerful on people's dignity. I think you can take away something from the arts. It's a part of our society and community, and it's really important to pay attention to that. You know, I would like to thank my family and my partner, Michelle, because we've been together for 36 years and she has been there the whole time. Every time I take a project on, she never says, don't do that. If it's important, she always says, go, do the right thing. So, you know, this is my last academic year. I'll retire. I'll be 65. So hopefully that will free up some time for some more creative projects. You know, I've got mixed feelings because I love the students. I really enjoy them and I work hard to still be relevant, though I'm older, and yeah, I'll find something else to do. I don't know what yet, but maybe find some organization where I can make a difference. You know, we'll see. We'll see what'll happen. I'll just keep getting up every day and making the world a better place in whatever way I can. I read the obits. My friends think it's kind of morbid. I think they are missing the point. I think, boy, this person really did a lot for society. What can I do that's better today? You know? And so I do it for different reasons. I just think people have life stories and it's important to think, what is my life story? What have I done? Have I given back enough? Oh, listen to this.
I once asked a colleague of mine who did this work at another Jesuit university when I was getting started, what advice do you have beyond the usual platitudes? And he gave me really off the wall advice. He said, I make sure to cuss at least once early in the experience in front of all the students. And I don't really even cuss that much. And he said, look, some students just want to go on a trip and they don't really want to do the immersion piece, but they're excited to go to whatever country we're going to. And so they kind of feel like they have to trick me. And, they're going to say all the right words and the platitudes, but they don't really mean it. And he said, and when I cuss, you can sometimes see it startle a couple of people. And the message I'm trying to send is like, this isn't a place where you have to be holier than thou. Come as you are. And when you come as you are, we're going to be able to process more authentically and make meaning out of this experience. So I love that. What I try and teach students is you don't know what you don't know. I keep going back to that. But like there's a mystery that will reveal itself to you if you're locked in. And it could be different for each person. And each of us brings the fullness of our identities and our experiences in. I joined the Center for Service in Action in 2019. Okay, joined in a really interesting way, where I was told they had just created this associate director position. I was going to be able to learn underneath Pam Rector. If you ever knew Pam. And then Pam went on an unexpected medical leave. Like day 2. Wow. So I ended up kind of thrust into an interim director role that I occupied on and off for several years. Pam passed away 2020, February 14th. I still find myself missing her to this day. You don't know what you don't know. So I think of a student when we went to Tijuana, to Casa del Migrante, who was like, why are you like putting these democratic talking points about immigration out? And I was like, I'm not. I'm actually just giving you the USC, the US Catholic Conference of Bishops' viewpoints on immigration. And if you're assigning politics to it, that's your choice. Casa del Migrante is kind of a landing point for folks once they get processed out of the US before they figure out what their next steps are. When we had dinner at Casa del Migrante, I go to like settle everything up with the priest who runs the place. If you've ever had that thing where like me and the priest are joking and having a good time, and so we walk into the room and we're kind of laughing loudly. And you just feel that you walked into a vibe that's very different than the one you brought into the room. And so we both look. And one of the migrants who had sat quietly at dinner and didn't want to talk to anyone is in the middle of the room crying. He was presumably undocumented and then, for some reason, was deported. We don't know. What we know from Casa del Migrante is during that time, that would have been probably 2014, people got deported for a variety of reasons. So it could be that they had committed a crime, but that crime could be as trivial as getting caught jaywalking. So you would have the gamut of folks who got taken away for different reasons. And what we knew was this man who had lived in LA for some period, who had a child there, a 4-year-old, and he was processing in real time, like, what am I gonna do? How am I gonna be there for my child? How am I gonna provide for my child? And he just keeps saying, how am I supposed to be there for my baby boy? And he's just sobbing. I want to take care of my kid. And this student, the one who challenged me on the talking points, that night of reflection tells us, my dad left our family when I was a kid. And my dad wanted nothing to do with us and hasn't since. And he got really emotional. And he goes, it was really hard to watch a man who wants to be there for his kid and who can't. I don't know what to do with this. I don't know that it changes any views, but I know that was difficult to see. And he came to my office like 2 weeks later and said, can we talk about immigration? And I was like, yeah, let's talk. And he just asked questions. But what would we do? Would we just open the border? Would we do this? Would we do that? But it was this genuine processing, you know? And I think he got to a point where he was like, okay, I don't like seeing families separated. And that's complex. And we're not going to solve it with a snap of a finger. But we ought to care about that. And I just remember thinking, God, that's beautiful, you know? But I also think that idea of just being physically present to your kid for a student whose dad had no interest in doing that for him, it was really powerful. You don't know what you don't know. Part of my job is to kind of be observant. So I had a student who was adopted from Guatemala. She was then one of our student leaders when we went to Guatemala recently. But the first time I ever met her was the year that we had returned from COVID. And I was sitting in like that lobby area. And this student, with her sister and her mother, walks through our door. And the mom just starts crying. And my students are like, what's going on? It brought me back to 2020 in February. And I knew exactly what was going on. And so I got up from my seat and I walked over and I just said, did you know Pam? And the mom is like, yeah. And she's crying. And so I'm hugging her and I'm like, tell me who Pam was to you. And we have this beautiful story. They were both single moms by choice. And so I'm now meeting the daughters, you know, and this woman's like, wow, she's meant so much to me. So fast forward. Her daughter and I are now on this immersion that was Guatemala. And I'm just like watching her daughter like a hawk the entire trip. And her daughter is one of the most phenomenal student leaders I've ever worked with. She'd been there prior with her birth family, and that was definitely meaningful. But this was her first time going back, not related to that. She wouldn't have come into contact with anybody related to birth. And she's trying to take on leading a group, and I'm like, you also got to take care of yourself in that situation. And we hit a night where I was just like, all right, we've arrived. Like, wow. And I could see it with her. And we got to a moment where I could talk to her without everyone else. And I just kind of turned to her and I said, you want to go sit outside and talk for a minute? And the tears just start streaming down the face. And it was whatever had happened, it had reached that point where she felt the enormity of the situation. And she felt the connection to the land and what that was like. And we sat outside and we cried together. And I listened to her stories. And I asked her, what do you think would be most helpful to you right now? As we were kind of settling in. And she said, I really wish I could talk to my mom, but my phone's not working here. And I was like, hey, well, mine is. Do you want to talk to your mom on my phone? And she's like, could I? So I give her my phone. She goes into her room. And as I'm walking away, I hear that moment when clearly her mom picks up the phone. And you just hear that mom. And like the tears, right? Start coming down. So she talks for like 30 minutes. And she comes back. She gives me the phone and she's like, that was so important to me. Thank you. That was nourishing for me. And her mom now has my phone number. And she sent me a text message that just said, It meant the world for her. Thank you for recognizing when she needed to talk to me and for making it possible. I felt the spirit of Pam in that moment, and I'm grateful to you. Sorry. Oh, man. So, like, that shit happens, And you just get to be with humans in, like, any way. And so I think you have to model vulnerability. I think you have to be open, but you also have to be in it. So I always say the first trip I go on, where I come out and I didn't have any tears come out of my eyes, I'm probably no longer made for these experiences. Like I've become too hardened to them. Now I'm a big softie. Every time something catches me and I find myself, either crying at what I'm hearing from someone we're encountering, or sharing tears with a student as they're processing some challenge. And I think that matters. To just show people there's a human element to this. You have to be willing to be vulnerable and to open yourself up to people. And I think like a lot of times we're taking people into cultures that model vulnerability more, that model openness more. Oof. You don't know what you don't know. I'm here for the experiences. And in general, with any of our work in CSA, it reveals itself when it reveals itself.
In need of healing and compassion, we ask for the grace
To be open, to be willing to be vulnerable.
Giving back, making the world a better place, being engaged in the moment, not just sitting back.
To make sure that these students don't feel alone.
To help whoever they are to be seen.
To be that person who helps guide them, supports them, and mentors them along the way, like the educators who worked with me when I was growing up.
To show people there's a human element to this.
To serve whoever's right in front of me. And if this is who God places in front of me, that's the person I'm going to serve and pay attention to.
To make common cause with all who share a commitment to local and global justice.
to heal,
To educate.
To liberate.
So that all may be one.
Patrick Furlong.
Jean Boylan.
Delmy Ruíz.
Lontok.
Good afternoon. I'm Sister Marianne Hipper, Director of the CSJ Center. Thank you to those who made this fabulous performance possible. I know that you, family, friends, and colleagues all have been moved and inspired by the lives and contributions of our honorees today through the magnificent stories written by our writers and portrayed by our actors. Now, to continue our celebration, on behalf of the CSJ Center, it gives me great pleasure to present each honoree with an original tile designed by one of our sister artists, Ellen O'Leary. We believe that the sentiments expressed in Sister Ellen's description of the piece convey why we hope this gift will be a lovely reminder to each recipient of this special day. So, in Ellen's words, the tapestry symbolizes your life. The weaving of the colors reminds you of the people woven in your life that you have touched and those who have influenced you. The gold spaces are those moments when your heart has expressed great compassion and great service. You have blessed our planet, and yet the tapestry is not finished. May your continual presence express the beauty of your person. So now the presentation to each of our honorees, who will also have a chance to say a few words. Jean Boylan.
I thank you for this award. It really means a lot to me because it's full circle since I started at LMU as a young person. And I feel like LMU and Loyola Law School has given me so much. If I can even give a small amount back, I'm thrilled. I'd also like to thank the true hidden heroes, which are the educators that helped me throughout my life, and also my law school colleagues who every day get up and try and make a difference in the lives of students. And those students go out and seek social justice. And to my family and core group of friends, many of from LMU, I so appreciate you. So thank you for being in my life and for all the support.
Patrick Furlong.
Hi, everyone. I just want to say thank you so much too, particularly Mark, Julian, for writing that, for reenacting that. I think you all make me look way better than I do in my day-to-day reality. So I'm very humbled by the two of you for the incredible work you did. And also just what a pleasure to be here with the other nominees and to hear those stories. It's really kind of sent my weekend out on a high right here. So huge thanks to Sister Judith, Sister Marianne. I think especially thinking today of Sister Joe. When I first started working at LMU, my office was located right next to Sister Joe and Sister Maria. And so thinking of her in a very special way this weekend. And then want to just finally give a shout out to Pam Rector. She was a huge friend and mentor, and all the team in CSA that does the work in her name. Grateful to you all.
Gregory Lontok.
Just want to say thank you to everyone for being part of my bigger story here. I come away inspired and affirmed, and I just will definitely look at this as a good reminder of why I'm here at LMU and getting this glimpse of heaven I get to experience every day. And it kind of hearing Patrick's story, him talking about Pam Rector, who was actually my neighbor, I just feel like this is a full circle moment. So thank you to Father Radmar too, who is also very much part of my story, who's been a spiritual director to me on retreats before, to Bonnie for writing, and also Kala, who nominated, who was my professor and is now my department chair. And so thank you to everyone here in this LMU community. Much love to you all.
Delmy Ruíz.
Thank you so much. I'm so honored and humbled to have been nominated as a hidden hero, and learning the stories of the other three that were also nominated is just so inspiring. So thank you everyone for your work. I'm so thankful to Bob Herto, my former supervisor, a colleague and friend who nominated me for this award. I'm truly touched, and to the team over at Mission and Ministry and the Center for Religion and Spirituality. This is really a group effort, and the work that we all do is just so inspiring in ways that is just such speaks to the great work that we're doing, and the students really are an inspiration to me and really provide me with the passion to continue doing the work that I'm doing. And thank you to Catharine and to Andrea, who were able to write and share my story today. So thank you.
On behalf of Sister Judith, Dory, Michael, Maria, and me, good afternoon, and thank you for celebrating with us today.